Hey Pursue God production team. In this video we're going to talk about slides and transitions. In the last video we talked about editing, and I finished editing this footage here, and now we're going to move on to the slides and transitions. So the first thing we're going to do for this video is we're going to move our timeline over and give us 2 seconds of pause for our first title slide. So I'm going to select everything here, and I'm going to drag my slider over to 2 seconds. Again, you can see the exact time right here. We've got hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. So I'm going to go to 2 seconds and 0 frames. And when you get close, you can use your arrow keys on your keyboard to go over frame by frame. So there I am. I'm at 2 seconds. I've got everything selected, and I'm just going to drag all the clips over, and it's going to snap to my slider. So now I've got 2 seconds of pause here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag my title slide from my project assets. I'm going to put that in the video 2 line, and I'm going to put that at the very beginning. So now when we play our video, we've got 2 seconds of silence before Scott starts. And I'm going to leave this at the default length right here, so you don't have to change the length of this slide at all. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, and I'm going to do the same thing at the end, except I'm going to start at 2 seconds before the video ends. So let's look at when our video ends. You can hit this button right here and it'll jump to the end of your video. This little black bar, that's what that means. This is the end. And so I'm going to look at the time, and it's 3 minutes, 4 seconds, and 1 frame. So I'm going to go back 2 seconds, so it'll be 3 minutes, 2 seconds, and 1 frame. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It does have to be close though. But with my arrow keys I can get it perfect. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to drag the title slide to the end here. And I'm going to leave it again at the default length, and that just gives us a little bit of time after our video. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the name image, and this brings up the Pursue God logo here and the name of the speaker. And then I'm going to butt it right up against this, and then I'm going to leave that again at the default time, and I believe that's 5 seconds. Then we're going to grab the category slide, do the same thing, butt it right up against it. This time we're going to click at the edge here until we get that icon, and we're going to drag it up against the title. So now throughout the whole video we've got this logo, and then we've got the category, Christian Living, up until the end here. So these are kind of our static, this is the type of stuff that makes the video look nice and professional. Now let's go on to our titles, or our point slides and our verses. So this takes a little bit more attention. So we're going to find Scott's first point here, and I believe he says it somewhere around here. So that's his first point. I can look at the slide and know that's his first point. I'm going to drag that onto this video 3 line. We can pray for spiritual discernment. So we're going to find that spot where he says it again. Okay, so right there. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit because we're working with detail here. And I'm going to find about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds before he says that line. And I'm going to have this slide start about 1.5 seconds before. We know it's 1.5 seconds. We work with 24 frames per second. So that's half of 24 is 12. So we're going to look for about 1.5 seconds and 12 frames before he starts saying that. So right here he says we. So we're going to put our slide here, and then we're going to look 43, about 1.5 seconds. So we're going to go to 42. Where does he say? He says about 43. So we're going to go about 42, and then we're going to go about 12 frames. All right, so there's 12 frames. Oh. And then we are going to drag that over. Then we're going to do the same thing at the end here. Okay, so on this one he goes right to a verse. So we're just going to go right where the clip ends. And we're going to leave it there. And then we know he goes right into the verse. So we're going to drag the verse, which is the O2 slide. And we are going to butt it right up against it. And then we see that the verse ends there. And so we're going to go about 1.5 seconds after that. So this is 103.19, so we're going to go 104.19, and then we're going to add 12 frames to that. So that's right about there. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. So the reason that we add this overlap is because we want to make sure that the slide is up that we're not having any transitions over these lines here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what that looks like and what we're trying to avoid. So I'm going to go into the transitions here, and I'm going to add this cross dissolve. And you can see that the transition is over the cut, and we're going to see what this looks like. You see that jump there? See, he's still looking at the screen, and then it jumps. We're trying to avoid that. We do not want that. That is not okay for our videos. So again, that's why we're adding that 1.5 seconds so that we can avoid that. See, that's what we're looking for right there, so that we are not having our transitions over our cuts. We want to give the illusion that Scott never stops talking, so that's why we do that. I'm going to go ahead and do this to the rest of the video. I'm going to add all the rest of the slides, and then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so I've added the last slide, and I've got about the timing just about right. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this transitions box. I'm going to go to cross dissolve, and I'm going to drag it to the beginning and end of all of these slides here and all of these slides here on video line 1 and 2. Now, this takes a bit of time, but it makes it much easier if you need to mess with some of the transitions. Maybe you've got a cut underneath one of your transitions. This makes it easier to edit after the fact. There's a few other methods to do this, to creating transitions and fades, but it can be kind of cumbersome if you need to edit it afterwards. So this process takes a little bit of time, but it is well worth it if there's a mistake that you need to fix. And so now that you've got it all together, you're going to want to look over it a few times, make sure your transitions are good, make sure that your cuts are seamless so that you don't have any issues. And then once you've got all that taken care of, you're ready to move on to our next video, which is exporting.